Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wahda wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'da. One of the lengthiest stories in the Noble Quran has got to be the story of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. In fact, Nabi Musa alayhi salam's name is mentioned a total of 136 times throughout the Noble Quran. So his story is unique for many reasons, which I've mentioned at other parts of the tafsir. But today I'm speaking about an episode in his life where he made a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to include that dua in the Noble Quran. And this dua has been included so that you and I can read it, use the same dua to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our own needs. Now, to understand the importance of the dua of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, it's quite necessary to get some context. You've got to understand what happened before he made this dua. So Nabi Musa alayhi salam was living in Egypt, which is where he was born. That was his home. His people lived there, and his family lived there. So at one point in time, he was accused of a crime. He was wanted for a crime. Now, I've explained the details of this elsewhere in the tafsir, but he was wanted by Fir'aun, which is the title that's given to the ruler of Egypt. That was the custom in those days, to give that title to the current ruler. So Fir'aun, along with his army and his people, they were basically hunting Nabi Musa alayhi salam. So he was wanted by the authorities, and if he was captured, it was basically understood that they wouldn't listen to his side of the story. They wouldn't verify whether everything that was related to them was true or not. They would most likely want to torture him, jail him, kill him. So Nabi Musa alayhi salam made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide him, and he decided to leave Egypt and set out for Madian. Now, Madian is the name of a city that existed in Sham. Now, Sham is the collective lands of Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine. You put all those together and you get what was known as Sham. According to some commentators of the Quran and some historians, Madian was the name of the son of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. The city was named after him. Nonetheless, Nabi Musa alayhi salam decided to set out for Madian, which was, historians mention, 8 days away from Egypt. Now, just to keep this in mind is really important. He had no friends with him, no family, no money, no other provisions, no conveyance. So he's got to walk the entire way. It takes 8 days to get there. And historians mention that his shoes broke off along the way, so he walked the balance of the way barefoot. He actually reached Madian walking barefoot. And also, he didn't know what would happen in Madian. Would there be somebody there to help him? Would he find a way out of his problems? But he did know that he would be safe to an extent, and he needed to leave Egypt, so he left. So these are the circumstances surrounding the dua of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Commentators of Quran mention that the distance between Egypt and Madian was 8 days, and for 7 of those days he had no food. Others mention for the entire 8 days he had no food, but all are unanimous on the fact that the only food he had during that time were the leaves of trees. That was the only kind of food that he was consuming. And others mention he was eating vegetation, others say he was eating herbs, but essentially whatever it was that he could find, that was what he was eating. Some commentators mention that because he was only eating leaves for such a long period of time, his skin took on a light green hue. It was shaded with a shade of light green because of how much greens he was eating. Other commentators mention that the hunger was so severe that his stomach stuck to his back. Now, this is a phrase that's used to show how weak somebody had become physically. So when you look at him, his stomach stuck to his back means he had nothing in his stomach. And it seemed as if the skin of his stomach was touching his spine. It was gone towards his spine. So it contracted so much. also the same commentators mention that he was at that point in his life, he was at such a point where he had no friends, he had no family, he had no allies either in Egypt or in Madian, which was where he had reached. And he was in such a stage physically that he needed even muhtajun ila shiqqi tamratin. If somebody gave him a piece of a date, he would have taken it. So a date in itself is very, very small. And if somebody gave him a piece of it, they broke off some, he would have taken it. That was how hungry he was and how much in need he was of the assistance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Nabi Musa alayhi salam, finding himself in these circumstances, is a message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving to us. When we don't know what dua to make, when we are in a state of utter helplessness, in a state of utter despondency, when we are in a state of utter despair, and sometimes we may not know what to ask for, we may not know what words to use, and sometimes we may be too broken to even explain the problems that we have, too tired, too drained, depleted, completely broken down, where we can't even explain what it is that we want, then this is the dua Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us to make. And this dua, you can find it in the Noble Quran in Surah Qasas in ayah 24. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this incident to us with these words.
فَسَقَى لَهُمَا ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ فَقَالَ رَبِّ إِنِّي لِمَا أَنزَلْتَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَقِيرٌ.
So Nabi Musa alayhi salam was in such a state, he was in this state of helplessness, and he was looking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, and these were the words that he used to make dua. So naturally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired these words into the heart of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to include this dua in the Noble Quran, so that we can use the same dua to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our own needs. So this is the ayah of the Noble Quran, but if you want to read this dua, you won't read the entire ayah. What you will read is coming up now, and it's something you can screenshot in 3, 2, 1. So you can see over here the dua of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, which is the dua that you would make together with the transliteration, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir, which literally means, Rabbi means my Rob. Now, usually the word Rob is translated as God, it's translated as Lord, but Rob, and I've explained this in the tafsir of Surah Fatiha already, but I'll mention it again. Rob means that being who undertakes to nourish something from absolute obscurity to perfection. تَبْلِيغُ الشَّيْءِ إِلَى كَمَالِهِ شَيْئًا فَشَيْئًا. That is the meaning of tarbiyah, to take something to perfection in stages, slowly, bit by bit. So you look at humans, you look at everything that you know of, none of it existed. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, when He created you and I, He created us and then nurtured us in stages until we reach the stage where we can look after other children, where we can do things for ourselves and teach other people how to do them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He nurtures us. He is our Rabb. So, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khair. What that means very simply is, my Rabb, whatever good you have to give me, I am faqir. I am in abject poverty. I am in a state of such need that whatever it is that you have to give me, I'll take it from you. Anything. So I'm in a state of need, I'm in a state of helplessness, I am in a state of utter despair, of despondency, of abject poverty. I am a beggar in front of you. I need anything that you have. Give me whatever you decide. I've got no requirements, I've got no specifications. You decide. Inni lima anzalta ilayya. So that ma is encompassing that word over there, that letter, and students of grammar would understand this better, but nonetheless, that ma means whatever whatever kind of good, any form, whether it's spiritual or it's physical or it's material, in any form at all, give me khair. Now, khair is usually translated as good, but in other parts of the Quran, khair has been used to denote wealth, to denote strength. In this case over here, one of the intentions of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, some commentators mention, was food, because he needed food first. So it's used to denote many things, but the essence of this dua is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we don't have the words, when we don't have the explanation, when we don't have the know-how of what we want, when we are too confused to decide, when we don't know what we should focus on, when we don't know how much longer we can go on, when we don't know which way is success, when we don't know what it is that we need to do next, when we can't decide or work out or deduce how to take the next step, then this dua of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, which he made at a point in his life when he had nobody looking after him, nobody supporting him financially or physically, nobody guarding him, nobody taking care of his security, nobody to be an ally for him. He had no other person on earth who could protect him or could help him in any way. So when he made this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the direction of his story in the Noble Quran changes completely. And in the balance of Surah Qasas, that tafsir will be discussed inshallah. But you can screenshot this dua over here, you can write it down, teach it to your children, teach it to your spouse, and make this dua every single day. Whenever you are making dua, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all your needs, but at the same time make this dua. It is a principle of dua that even though you can use your own words and your own language, the duas that are mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah, they are greater than any other dua that a person can make. So this is one dua, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. Whatever kind of good you have, O Allah, I am a beggar, I will take it. I need it. I am utterly in need of your help. I am utterly in need of good. And if you can't explain every problem that you have, then make this dua, and inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you a solution to all of them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from amongst the people of the Quran, and may He raise us up on the day of Qiyamah amongst the people of the Quran.